I think the older I get, the more I appreciate the genre of black sitcoms. I would see a lot of them growing up, as my grandmother loved to watch shows like Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons, and Good Times. But these shows are a lot more than just funny television programming. It was an opportunity for us to see our culture and identity represented on such a large scale. Our fashion, our slang, our music. So recently, I've been trying to go back and catch up on some series that I missed. So it was only a matter of time until I took a trip to Bel-air and watched The Fresh Prince. Beyond its hilarious characters and all-star cast, the series directly challenged the portrayal of the black identity. How often do we get to see a rich all-black family on TV? The storyline isn't these characters struggling to make ends meet, but instead we're watching two different classes collide right as the rise of hip-hop culture was at its peak. Beyond the series being composed by the late great Quincy Jones, Will Smith's character embodied the style, politics, and energy of hip-hop and put it directly against a high-class, traditional family household. You really don't need me to remind you how iconic the original Fresh Prince is and how truly memorable and entertaining its storylines were. Right as I was finishing the final season of the series, I saw that there was another adaptation that recently came out, a series called Bel-air. Now, just for clarification, I will be calling the original 1990s sitcom The Fresh Prince, and then the 2022 drama interpretation Bel-air. It was presented as this darker and more gritty interpretation of the original story. I don't think I took this new series direction seriously at first. I don't know, it was just very jarring, especially with the original series still in mind. I didn't give this new series a chance to do its own thing. So I did a little experiment with some friends where we would watch the first episode of Fresh Prince, then directly afterwards watch the first episode of Bel-air. Just for us to share that original shock and surprise when you see characters from the original series pulling out guns and doing coke at parties. However, later doing this experiment with two other friends, something was uniquely different. They actually really started to like it. Now, for context, they aren't close fans of the original sitcom, like some of my other friends were. So I think it was easier for them to grasp on these newer interpretations. We then decided to meet up every week and then watch the series all the way through, and it ended up being one of the best decisions we've ever made. Now listen, Bel-air can be super messy. Damn near every episode had us tweaking. We would commonly engage in long-form discussions around character development and if certain plot points made sense. But in the back of my mind, I've always thought about how Bel-air works as a reimagining. This series isn't a direct follow-up or continuation. It's also not a reboot that follows the same tone and tropes as the predecessor. It is a completely different interpretation, using the same setup and characters to tell a new and updated story about the Black experience. It's a bold stance to take and requires a lot more creativity than just doing the sitcom over again. While it was able to carve its own lane and tell its own story, Bel-air still finds ways to pay respect and homage to the series that came before it. Like I initially felt, I think a lot of people just can't fathom these newer interpretations. And I won't fully blame you for that either. We become so attached to these characters and how we remember them that anything that changes or challenges the way that we view them feel more like a misunderstanding of why we were attached to them in the first place. But honestly, the more I think about it, Bel-air does such an incredible job at retaining the heart of what made The Fresh Prince such an incredible show. Now, since I want to encourage more people to watch Bel-air, I'll try to make this essay relatively spoiler-free. I'll bring up plot points, but I won't give away big twists or reveals. One thing that I feel that Fresh Prince never really gets proper credit for is its ability to genre blend. While yes, it is a sitcom and prioritizes its comedic moments, the show never shied away from darker or more dramatic story arcs. Remember, the same series that threw Jazz out the house every episode, and the same series that started the Carlton dance, also gave us episodes about racial profiling, of drug use and overdosing, gun violence, sexuality, Black history, and a plethora of other important topics. The show is no stranger to incorporating these dramatic plot points, and they even remain some of the series' most important and memorable episodes, like the episode where Will gets shot in order to save Carlton's life, or the episode where Will meets his father after he abandoned him and his mother's for years. Bel-air's approach allows us to take story beats and plot points that the original series only lightly touched on to be explored in deeper and more complex ways. For example, we know that Carlton and Ashley go to a predominantly white school, Bel-air Academy, but the Bel-air series gives us a chance to see how being in Bel-air Academy changes their perception of their own blackness and the struggles of being distant from black culture in general. The show gives one-off characters like Jackie, Ice Tray, and Lou so much more depth and focus than their original Fresh Prince counterparts. And let's not get it twisted either. Although it's a much more grounded and dramatic story, Bel-air isn't all doom and gloom. It can still be extremely funny and knows how to balance out its moments of high intensity with slower and more emotional scenes with its characters. And well, speaking of characters, for being his first acting role, Will Smith showed a lot of range and personality as a titular character. Pairing him up with Shakespearean and more experienced actors definitely had an impact on his performance as the show went on. Although he can be a handful, Will Smith is one of my favorite main characters in a television series. He just has the power to bring out the best in the people around him. Being played by the real-life Will Smith, his character is extremely charismatic and really knows how to nail comedic and emotional moments.
I guess I could kiss heaven goodbye because it got to be a sin to look this good.
His character experiences a lot of growth as the show goes on. His main arc centers around growing up without a father figure. And although Lou only appears in one episode, his absence in Will's life is felt throughout the entire series run. I think audiences are initially drawn to that comedic pairing of Carlton and Will as they work extremely well together. But the real heart of the series is the relationship between Will and his uncle Phil. As the series goes on, Uncle Phil becomes Will's father figure and takes in Will as his own son. The two learn from each other as Will realizes what it takes to truly be a man. Uncle Phil learns empathy and to not look down on others simply for where they came from. It's extremely heartwarming, and you can really feel that growth between the two by the end of the series. Jabari Banks plays Will Smith in Bel-air, and his take on the character is extremely fascinating. Nobody can follow that raw charisma and energy of the original Will Smith, but Jabari finds small moments that give us that exact same feeling.
Just be happy you're sitting pretty for the moment.
You think I'm pretty?
I said sitting pretty.
All I heard was pretty.
He's just as funny and caring while also being extremely impulsive and at times hot-headed. Bel-air focuses more on Will's basketball skills and turns down Will's original playboy energy that was present in Fresh Prince. I actually think this is a smart move. Although Will's quest for love is a big part of that original series plot, it gets extremely repetitive, as we never feel that he learned anything meaningful from his past romantic failures. Bel-air gives us the pairing of Will and Lisa right from the jump, which really helped to flesh out their dynamic, especially compared to the one season she got in the original Fresh Prince series. Bel-air also gives us a deeper look into his life in Philly. They take that situation and fight he gets into in the first episode seriously, and the first season is primarily focused on his PTSD from that experience. Also, his relationships between both of his parents get fleshed out a lot more as well, with his relationship with his father Lou being one of my personal favorites. Now, the connection between Will and Uncle Phil doesn't feel as strong as it did in Fresh Prince, but his other relationships with characters like Carlton, Lisa, and Jazz feel damn near identical to their Fresh Prince counterparts. Lastly, one of my favorite details that Bel-air capitalizes on is Will's skill in business. We get episodes in the original Fresh Prince series that explores Will's ability to connect with nearly anyone, like Season 4, Episode 19, You Better Shop Around, where Will becomes a car salesman, or Season 3, Episode 18's The Alma Mater, where Will basically talks his way into a Princeton University acceptance. Bel-air capitalizes on this side of his character. We get to see him work with Carlton to start his own business in Season 3. This version of Will presents a more grounded and down-to-earth teenager struggling to find his place in his new home in Bel-air, while also not forgetting where he came from. Carlton Banks is one of the most iconic characters of the 90s, played by Alfonso Ribeiro, he works perfectly against Will. He's a nerdy and preppy teen who dreams of being just as rich and successful as his father. The dynamic between him and Will is one of the best parts of the original series. They just learn so much from each other. Will learns to accept the opportunities he's been given in Bel-air through his cousin, while Carlton learns more about Black culture and his own Blackness through Will. As many episodes such as Season 1, Episode 6, Mistaken Identity, features the two getting racially profiled and arrested for driving a fancy car late at night. The episode ends with Will telling Carlton that systemic racism doesn't stop when you reach wealth or high class. This point gets capitalized on in Season 4, Episode 8's Blood is Thicker Than Mud, where Carlton stands up for himself and reinstates that his experience in life is one of a Black man's, despite any differences he might have with anyone else.
Being Black isn't what I'm trying to be, it's what I am.
Carlton can be extremely clueless, naive, and selfish at times, but his dynamic with Will keeps him grounded. Bel-air's take on the character is, on the surface level, the series' most drastic change. Being played by Ali Sholatan, Carlton in Bel-air has so much more layers to him and is, in my opinion, the series' deepest and best written character. Carlton is a character who's burdened by expectations. Wanting to be the perfect son for his parents, the best student in his school, Carlton constantly feels like he has to put on a persona to maintain the perception of everyone else around him. Like the original interpretation, Carlton at times can have a large ego. As for some differences though, Bel-air's Carlton suffers from anxiety and develops a drug addiction to cocaine to cope with his emotional struggles. Couple all of this with his own identity issues with his Blackness. While the original series focused on this point as well, Bel-air tackles it in a different way. While trying to assimilate to his white classmates, he made some dangerous compromises to his own values to fit in, allowing his quote-unquote friends to get away with some really disgusting behavior like saying the N-word. And even though Carlton has a lot of issues, it's such a beautiful journey to watch him overcome them, and it would not be as captivating or powerful without the portrayal of Ali Sholatan, who absolutely kills the role in both emotional and dramatic scenes.
And you wish that you had a stronger son. Trust me, Dad, I know I'm not the son you dreamed of.
His relationship with Will is much more antagonistic at first compared to that Fresh Prince counterpart. Carlton has to work hard to maintain his standing in school, his love life, and maintaining the role as the bank's only son. But when Will moves into Bel-air, he effortlessly becomes adored by his classmates. He gets on the basketball team, he takes Carlton's ex-girlfriend, and is taken into the bank's family almost instantly. This infuriates Carlton, as the show really makes us wait to see the cousins become the dynamic duo versions that we see in the original. It's definitely a slow burn, but when they do make up, they are an unstoppable team. With the charisma of Will and the brains of Carlton, the two make great business partners as well as troublemakers, as they get into their fair share of shenanigans over the series. One of the best scenes in the original series is between Will and Carlton towards the last episode. They share their CD collection, and we find out that Will actually bought his own copy of Carlton's music, and Carlton has done the same for Will. It's a perfect showing of how the two have influenced each other over time, and even though Bel-air doesn't give us this exact moment, when you find out where Will and Carlton go to college, it gives me that exact same feeling of growth between the both of them. Carlton isn't played up for jokes as he often is in Fresh Prince. His journey with anxiety and sobriety is taken much more seriously and is one of the show's most interesting plot lines. Fresh Prince's Hillary might be my favorite character on the show. Played by Karen Parson, she absolutely nails the comedic retorts and one-liners. She's arguably the most quoted character in the entire series.
Dad, I need $300.
Hillary, your cousin Will is here.
Hi. Dad, I need $300.
Her character is extremely surface level and is basically just a spoiled rich girl. She's an airhead who loves fashion and shopping more than anything else. Now, even though her character lacks depth, she's still given some great episodes, like the episode where she struggles to tell her parents that she dropped out of college in Season 1, Episode 13, Knowledge is Power. Or episodes around her struggling to keep a job, like Season 2, Episode 14's Hillary Gets a Life. She gets paired up with Jeffrey a lot in the original series, as the two share an almost antagonistic dynamic with each other, with Jeffrey being forced to do the work that Hillary refuses to do.
Jeffrey, what do you know about wine?
I know no one does it better than you, Miss Hillary.
Hillary is such a refreshing Black character as well. as how often do we get to see this trope with black women? She remains an icon to so many black women for her fashion style, attitude, and overall entertaining personality throughout the show. Bel-air's interpretation adds some more substance to the character. Being played by Coco Jones, Hillary remains the fashion icon that everyone knows her to be. They also use her social media presence and personality to add a new aspect to her character, as she struggles with gaining followers and maintaining an image. This feels like a perfect progression of the original series interpretation, as I can absolutely see the original Fresh Prince Hillary doing the same. With this new social media angle, we get to see her tackle new issues such as creating brand deals, maintaining a content creator house, and the struggles with being a black content creator in modern day, with issues of sexualization and racism specifically. Her love life as well is taken much more seriously in Bel-air. In Fresh Prince, Jazz and Hillary don't really share romantic chemistry, as she rejects Jazz any chance that she could. But Bel-air adds some actual substance to their dynamic, as we get to see a battle between Hillary choosing love for herself and Jazz, or choosing love for optics and social gratification in another character, LaMarcus. However, Hillary's role in the story does begin to feel muted, especially in season 4, where they completely write her out the show in certain episodes. I don't know, maybe they couldn't afford Coco Jones for longer, but I just wish that we had more of her as the series went on, as I found her story in the first 3 seasons extremely interesting. Ashley probably has the most development out of all 3 of the Banks kids. Being played by Tatiana Ali, Ashley starts off the series as a 12-year-old girl who, like Carlton, works hard to maintain the expectations her parents have of her. We see this immediately in the series' 2nd episode, where we learn that Ashley is forced to play violin by her parents, where in all honesty, she has no interest. That's why her relationship with Will is so important throughout the series. With her being the youngest, she is the most susceptible to Will's influence. She sees how Will rejects the upper class and preppy life that Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv try to force on him. He lives by his own code of ethics and is unafraid to be himself. Ashley takes this to heart, as through Will, she learns to try new things and learns that the world is a lot bigger than just her Bel-air gates. They connect the fastest, and Will basically becomes her cooler older brother. As the show goes on, she actually has one of the most progressive story arcs I've ever seen in a 90s sitcom. She ends the series at 17 years old, where we see conflict between her and her family as Ashley begins to date, go out to parties, and choosing her own sexual partners. One of the sweetest moments in the original series is a talk between Hillary and Ashley in season 6, episode 7's Not With My Cousin You Don't, where Hillary steps up and advises her little sister about sex and when she'll know if she's ready. It's a very progressive story for its time, encouraging its younger female audience to exercise their own sexuality safely. This comes into conflict with her father, as Uncle Phil is extremely protective over his daughter. Will's conflict, however, feels much less understandable. It's played up more for comedy, but Will sees Ashley's boyfriend use the exact same charmer tactics that he uses with other women. It's a perfect mirror moment, but it just feels extremely hypocritical that Will gets to freely flirt with any woman that he sees in every episode, but won't let Ashley be with her one boyfriend.
It is none of your business.
None of my business.
Right. This is my life. I decide what I do or don't do.
But overall, Ashley remains one of the most interesting characters in the series, with her journey to discover herself being extremely ahead of its time. Bel-air actress Akira Akbar does a great job in her role. Bel-air hones in on Ashley's intelligence, as she is extremely knowledgeable about several political and social issues, as well as very passionate on speaking up for marginalized people, with her being the centerpiece in a black teachers' social movement in the series' 2nd season. And like in the original series, we get story arcs around her sexuality. Ashley learns that she isn't straight, and instead of focusing on what label she should take on, she finds freedom in finding love in whoever she wants. It's a natural progression from her arc in The Fresh Prince. My biggest issue, however, is that she just feels so detached from the rest of the series. She really doesn't get enough screen time compared to the other characters. Her dynamic with her older brother Carlton and Will just feel really underbaked. Now this could be due to Akira still being a child actor and recording conflicts, I'm not 100% sure. But the show thankfully capitalizes on her relationship with Hillary, as Hillary and Ashley get a lot of sweet moments throughout the series. I just wish that they could have incorporated her more into main plot lines and not leave her arcs on the side. Aunt Viv is one of the most iconic and loved mothers in sitcom history. Played excellently by Janet Hubert, Aunt Viv is the voice of reason and holds her family together. She holds Phil accountable when he gets too much in his head and reprimands her children when they give too much trouble. She's also a university professor and holds a lot of importance for teaching and preserving Black history. She has one of the best episodes in the series, in Season 2, Episode 7's The Big 4-0. On her 40th birthday, Aunt Viv feels like she's gotten complacent and hasn't tried anything new in years. So she leaves her comfort zone and tries dancing. It's a beautiful episode that teaches the audience that growing older doesn't mean that your worth is lessened. It's a very encouraging episode, and it's a perfect exploration of Phil and Viv's relationship. However, Janet Hubert gets replaced midway through the series run, right after the end of Season 3. Janet and Will got into conflict behind the scenes, so she was replaced with a lighter-skinned actress, Daphne Maxwell Reid, which led to many conversations around colorism. Now, this isn't a slight at Daphne's performance, but the show really reduces the amount of focused episodes she gets right after she gives birth to baby Nikki. We really lose out on some really interesting plot points and character development that we could have had with her. Bel-air gives Aunt Viv a major improvement from her Fresh Prince interpretation. Played by Cassandra Freeman, she does a perfect job blending the charisma and attitude of Janet with the care and softness of Daphne. They highlight her connection with Will, as they are both canonically born in Philly. Will inspires Aunt Viv to continue to pursue her art career. A big part of her arc in Season 1 is trying to learn who Aunt Viv is besides being Uncle Phil's wife. Just like the Season 2 episode of Fresh Prince, Bel-air leans into Aunt Viv yearning for independence and creativity. Season 2 and 3 focus on her marriage with Uncle Phil, dealing with learning how to keep the spark alive, and really leans into some of the messiest storylines in the entire series. Season 4 focuses on her giving birth to baby Nikki, and actually dives into some really interesting topics such as giving birth at an older age and the pain in childbirth that Black women specifically go through. I can say this about all the actors in Bel-air, but Cassandra is a powerhouse in this series and made me root for her the entire run. She's just given so many powerful moments and monologues that give the audience a raw and unfiltered look at the struggles of being a Black woman working in predominantly white spaces. Aunt Viv's character is not just the voice of reason. She's her own character with her own wants and goals, and it's great that Bel-air gives us the opportunity to learn more about her. The absolute legend, James Avery, played the most impactful and loved TV father of all time. Uncle Phil is the role model of the bank's kids. He is the ideal, affluent father figure who worked hard to keep the high-class luxury his family enjoys by working as a high-profile lawyer. But he can sometimes lose his touch with the common middle and lower-class Black struggle, which Will helps him to face. One of the most interesting Uncle Phil episodes is Season 2, Episode 20's Those Were the Days, where he meets back up with an activist friend from his college. She reminds Uncle Phil that beyond the safety of his Bel-air gates, Black people are struggling, and it's up to him to use his platform and power to continue to advocate for their community. But he's not all strict and no nonsense, as you might think. Uncle Phil portrays a very progressive look at Black masculinity, from being the strong and capable protector of the household, but also someone who is emotionally available for his wife and isn't afraid to show his emotions around his kids. He tells his children how much he loves them and isn't afraid to hug them or celebrate their achievements no matter what. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Will and Uncle Phil are the heart of the Fresh Prince series, and a core aspect of its identity is Uncle Phil stepping up to be the father figure that Will always needed. Although their relationship begins rocky, Will needs Uncle Phil. Will needs guidance on what it means to be a man, and what it means to be a provider and make the most out of every opportunity given. There's a reason why so many Fresh Prince fans hold Uncle Phil in such high regard, because in a lot of ways, Uncle Phil is the ideal father figure that so many in our community needed. Bel-air's Uncle Phil has to function a little differently. Being played by Adrian Holmes, Bel-air gives us a more flawed and honest look at Uncle Phil. Adrian still captures the warmth and care of James Avery interpretation, and they cut down on a lot of the fat jokes that the original series had and focus much more on his leadership role at his firm and his household. That being said though, Uncle Phil can no longer remain the voice of reason. That would just kill a lot of the drama that the series wanted to build up. That does not mean that he doesn't have moments where he can have heart-to-heart conversations with his kids. because he absolutely does. His relationship with Carlton especially takes a whole new meaning in Bel-air. We already know that Carlton looks up to his father in Fresh Prince, but Bel-air gives us a look at how hard it can be to live up to its image. The first season features Uncle Phil running for district attorney, and we watch how difficult it is for the family to be under the eyes of the public. It's one of my favorite arcs in the series because every member of the family reacts differently. For the rest of the series, his relationship with Aunt Viv is his primary focus, as he has to learn to support Aunt Viv's ambition as well as keeping his own firm afloat. We also get to explore how his wealth and power can also affect how he supports, or at times, even hurt other local black businesses. It's really interesting because although Uncle Phil can't be the sole voice of reason, he is given moments to grow and develop alongside his family. Adrian works extremely well with the new direction and gives us a look at Uncle Phil, who's not just a role model, but a human being who can struggle to provide for the family he loves. Besides being the family butler, Jeffrey has the driest line delivery and punchline of the entire series. Being played by the incredible Joseph Marcel, although being a butler is his job, working for the banks is never an easy shift. His posh and pretentious personality bounces off Will's wild and reckless side. A common joke within the series is his disdain for working for the banks. He never misses an opportunity to join in on making fun of Will's outfit, Uncle Phil's gluttony, or Hillary's laziness.
What are you still doing here?
That's a question that haunts me every day.
He's also much more aware of his self-worth, as many episodes focus on him demanding a raise for his services. This does not mean that he actually hates the banks. His purpose is to provide a different perspective from the shenanigans of the other characters. Towards the end of the 6th season, we learn that Jeffrey actually has a son in London that he had no idea even existed. His story ends with him moving back to London to spend proper time with him. It's a really interesting idea, but comes off way too late in the series, so this arc feels rushed and lacks proper build-up and payoff. But still, Joseph's Jeffrey remains a highlight of the original series. Bel-air's Jeffrey takes on a less comedic role. No longer just a butler, Jimmy Akingbola plays the role as the bank's house manager. Like mentioned earlier, here, Jeffrey isn't throwing out dry quips and roast. He's a scary and menacing figure who keeps order and protection to the banks and their home. Although this change took a while to get used to, the show never shies away from his softer and kinder personality. Bel-air wants you to understand that Jeffrey himself is a member of the bank's family and will stop at nothing to look out for Will and Carlton whenever they get into issues. A big relationship in the series is a dynamic with Uncle Phil. One of the series' best achievements is its soft and vulnerable brotherhood between grown and masculine black men. They don't always agree and sometimes get into conflict, but at the end of the day, they share a close bond and look out for each other when no one else can. Even telling each other, "I love you," is such a monumental step in portraying black brotherhood. Bel-air also fixes my issue with the Fresh Prince story arc. We learn of Jeffrey's son, Frederick, as early as season 1, and we formally get to meet him in season 2. We get to see the difficulty in trying to connect with a son you haven't seen in years and how uncomfortable and awkward it can be for both parties involved. Along with that, he's also reconnecting with his past love, Penelope. In season 3 and 4, we learn more about his dark ties with UK street gangs, which is a story arc that was created for Bel-air. Sometimes his arc feels extremely disconnected from the rest of the family drama, since it includes themes of street ties, money laundering, and gang affiliation. And while it's not my favorite arc of the series, I can't help but root for Jeffrey to lose the ties of his past and create a safer future for his family, both of his families. So that was just a small summary of the banks, but I also want to highlight Jazz and Lisa for a bit, as they're also important to the series. Jazz is Will's dumb best friend. Being played by the real-life Jazzy Jeff, Jazz doesn't really have a story outside of that. Like Jeffrey, Jazz isn't much of a developed character in Fresh Prince. He's a device for jokes. He has a crush on Hillary, but to no avail. She rejects him all the time. He has like a running gag of being thrown out the house by Uncle Phil. Jazz is a cool character, but at times his ignorance can get the cast into unnecessary conflicts. He's only used in small doses, but as a main central character, he's not much to write home about. Bel-air's interpretation makes Jazz into a real dynamic character. Being played by the hilarious Jordan L. Jones, Jazz is actually a mentor to Will. He's the first connection he makes once he gets into Bel-air and gives him advice about trying to adjust to his new surroundings. Just like the original series, Jazz and Will are an extremely fun duo, and they're given so much more heart in Bel-air, as Jazz is really one of the few people Will can look for guidance in. Their relationship with Uncle Phil and Hillary are played a lot more seriously in Bel-air as well, as Hillary and Jazz do date, and we get to see the struggles that come with the collision between Hillary's high-class background and Jazz's lower-class and more street upbringing. Jordan L. Jones, like Jabari Banks, is just naturally charismatic and has great rapport with any character he's on screen with. Being played by Nia Long, Lisa added an interesting dynamic for Will during the 5th season of Fresh Prince. We've seen Will through all type of romantic mishaps, from trying to go out with girls, to breaking up with girls, to going steady with a girlfriend's mother. Yeah, he's been around. So, the 5th season shook things up and gave him a long-term girlfriend in Lisa, a girl in his college. She's not the most developed or interesting character on her own, but she allows us to see how Will can drop his playboy ways and be there for his woman when he needs to be. This relationship culminates in marriage, where after Will gets shot protecting Carlton, he doesn't want to die with any regrets and proposes to Lisa. They agree to get married, but bows out at the altar, with Lisa fearing that she's rushing into it too fast. Now, I have a lot of issues with the ending of season 5, and I think this ending could have been interesting, but it just never gets followed up. We never get to see or hear from Lisa after this moment. Will doesn't really grow as a person from this season, since right into season 6, he just continues to chase girls the same way he used to. Also, notice how much we're talking about Will in the Lisa section, as she doesn't really have much of an individual personality. She works more as an asset to Will's story arc. Bel-air's Lisa, played by Simone Joy Jones, is a much more fleshed out character. Introducing her as a mainstay character throughout all 4 seasons is a smart choice. She's a swimmer and a student at Bel-air Academy. She's also the first student to welcome Will with open arms once he lands at school. However, there is added drama, as Lisa is actually Carlton's ex-girlfriend. This leads to one issue I have with her characterization, as she can sometimes feel like a tool for other male characters to fight over, instead of as a standalone character, which is actually even brought up in the show itself, where she states how she feels like she's an extension of Will, where Will never takes out time to check in on her and her issues around her mother's passing or her newborn baby brother. Will and Lisa have relationship highs and lows, and the dynamic with Carlton remains turbulent, but I think she shines when she's with Carlton's later love interest, Amira. They develop a sisterhood and a strong connection in season 3 and 4. Bel-air's Lisa feels like her own person, and you still find yourself rooting for her and Will to stay together, because the show just does a great job exploring how much trust Will and Lisa put into each other. Bel-air is by no means a perfect show. I think as it goes on, some of its plot points and story beats feel unrealistic and force you to suspend your level of disbelief to an absurd degree. Also, some of the show's dialogue can be really cringe. Some lines feel unnatural, and some characters are given lines and phrases that either sound really out of date or just forced. Another issue is how the series handles music. In the original Fresh Prince, music plays an extremely important role. Will is the embodiment of the upcoming hip-hop genre. It is not until Uncle Phil sees him playing piano, and with Phil being a fan of classical music, it leads the two to begin to have a heart-to-heart conversation. We learn so much about characters and their backgrounds through the songs that they sing and the music that they enjoy. Another example is Ashley, as in season 5, inspired by Will, she starts to sing and record music, a way for her to express herself without the input of her parents. Bel-air just never capitalizes on the importance of music. While yes, it's cool to hear artists like Meek Mill, Joey Badass, and Little Sim show up on the soundtrack, the music itself doesn't play an important role in the story. We know that Uncle Phil loves 90s hip-hop, but it doesn't add anything to his story running for district attorney. Ashley does start to write music, but it doesn't culminate in a big confession like in Fresh Prince. It's the backdrop for her to meet another character, Eli. This is also strange because most of the cast in Bel-air already do music, so it just feels like untapped potential. The final season of Bel-air, season 4, was clearly cut in development, as it does feel extremely rushed. Seasons 1, 2, and 3 ran for 10 50-minute long episodes, but season 4 only has 8. However, with this setback though, the writers are still able to give the series a very satisfying finale, with a final scene that is 1000% sure to give any Fresh Prince fan chills. Despite these grievances, Like Fresh Prince, Bel-air has an all-star cast. Each and every member in their roles do a good job paying respect to the characters' original interpretations, but also create a modern and deeper look into their stories, which brings me back to my original thesis. So many people give this series so much unnecessary backlash and vitriol, and I was one of them at first. But on a deeper look, Bel-air dares to do something different. It's not a direct copy or continuation. Bel-air challenges the way that we remember these characters and their stories. By using the same framework as Fresh Prince, Bel-air is able to comment on modern Black issues and culture, explore these characters on a deeper level, and trail its own path to tell a wholly unique story. To be able to walk this fine line takes a lot of effort, and it's a testament to the writing and directorial staff's ability. They clearly love the source material, as they don't shy away from bringing back old cast members or dropping small references here and there. This is not a versus video, or a video that tells you which series is better, because truth be told, I love both shows. For different reasons, sure, but I don't think that they have to directly be compared. The goal is to show you how close these shows actually are, how they hold the same thematic values. Bel-air is fascinating. It's daring, it's refreshing, it's different, yet eerily familiar. If you can't get over the genre change and don't resonate with the new tones, that's fine. It won't work for everybody. But if you care about Fresh Prince's social commentary, its lovable characters, its all-star cast, or its heartwarming family story, it's all still here, even if the presentation is flipped and turned upside down. All right. All right. You love it.